Hi everybody, welcome back to another MyTutor online schools tutorial for GCSE Maths. Today we're looking at functions and what on earth they are and everything to do with that. So welcome back if you've come before. Hello if you're new. This session is run by the MyTutor online schools project and will last for 1 hour. So we'll be finishing at 3 p.m. This is me, Molly, who's running it. Just finished my second year, computer science and maths, and I've done a load of lessons with MyTutor. So hopefully this will be a smooth running session. So a couple of notes, which I will let you know as we are joining the first Kahoot. So I always run a Kahoot at the beginning and at the end of each of my sessions. They're different Kahoots, but like exactly the same please let me log in. Exactly the same level, style of questions and everything. Basically, see if we can improve the average percentage score. It lets me know where you guys are at the beginning. It lets me know what I need to focus more of my time on in the lesson. So that's what we'll be doing. So Kahoot number 1, functions 1, play, teach. Let's go. Okay, so pop this when it appears, pop this code in on the Kahoot app or Kahoot.it as it says up there, and we'll start. Yeah, quite a few questions saying GCSE English. I noticed, I think on the timetable that went out, the times were the wrong way round. So I think English was at 11. I think that's right. But that will be on the YouTube. And if you're here expecting English, sorry, this one's maths. Feel free to leave if this isn't what you were looking for, or join in with some fun maths. Yeah. Someone's also asked, you in a different part of your house. I am. Location change. How refreshing. By a nice window. Yeah, so whilst this is happening, whilst people are joining, throughout this session, make good use of the chat function, the chat and the Q&A. Let me know how you're finding it, whether you're following it, whether you'd like me to repeat a question or go back and do something. Yeah, whatever you would like. And also, at the end, once we're joining the final Kahoot, I'll be doing a little poll about what times you'd like. So please do stick around for then, because that will be really, really useful. So I'll just give it another, there's still a few people who haven't joined. So I'll just wait. That. Okay, I feel like most people who've joined. What I'll do is I'll pop this link, this game pin on the chat. And then you can join. I'll keep it unlocked so that you can join whilst we're going. So if you have no idea what a function is, totally fine. Guess these questions, leave these questions, whatever you want to do. If you don't know what f of x means, that's totally fine. If you have no idea what's going on, it's good. It means you're going to learn something. But this just gives me a gauge of what people get, what people don't get, and so on. Awesome. Okay, lots of people got that. Fantastic. Don't worry if you didn't. What I do is in my beginning quizzes, I don't explain the answers, just so that, because this is just a quick bash through it, test of knowledge. Whereas in the final one, I'll explain the answers a bit more. So if you've never seen these before, maybe start to try to work it out. Maybe try to think about what it could mean. But we will see in a moment what it does mean. Okay, I actually think that's everyone. I think there are only 21. Oh, someone else just joined. Okay, yeah, fab. Loads of people got that one. Awesome stuff. So maybe you worked it out for yourself, or you've already seen this notation before. Either way, that's really good. Okay. So this is just a bit of, what's the word, terminology. Which do we call the input and which do we call the output? It's a 50-50, so even if you don't know, you know, try guessing and skewing the results. Awesome, loads of people got that, fantastic, yeah. A is what we input into the function and B is what we receive as the output. Okay, a tricky one now. Very tricky. For some reason, I didn't change the time from 30 seconds. Oh, okay, because there's no expansion of it. So if you don't know what on earth this means, give it a guess. See what people thought there. Okay, a difficult one, that. A very difficult one. Okay, I feel like that's probably just a kind of guessing statistic. So this is one that I thought would be quite hard, but once you get into it, it's not too bad. Now, you're probably thinking, what on earth does this mean? FOF? FOF? What on earth? If you don't know, that's totally fine. You will do by the end. I can see answers coming in quickly. I feel there's a lot of guessing happening here, which isn't a bad thing. It means that it's a topic that people do need help on. It's kind of better if you guys all knew exactly what you were doing. My job would be a little bit redundant. Someone says, "Did you get bored of the wine bar? Why am I in my other room?" It's because my mum's boyfriend is back working from home, so I've got to go upstairs. Don't want any background noise. Yeah, that one was a tricky question there. So yeah. Plus we've got some light this way, and I don't look like an alcoholic, so it's a win-win. Okay, now we want to find the inverse of this function. If you don't know what that means, that's totally fine. This is probably a new concept to most of you, or maybe one that you haven't done in a while, or wasn't sure about when you did it. So give it a guess. I'm only going to let this timer, I think, go down to about, I'll let it go down to 50. Because I don't think you need too long for this one, if you do know it. Oh, okay. People got their answers in. Okay, another really difficult one there. But that's totally fine because we'll learn what on earth inverse means and we'll learn how to calculate them. So this is an interesting one and we will cover why once we get into the lesson. So which of these does not have an inverse? You might not know what that means. That's totally fine. Like I said, we'll know why soon. Okay, I'll just let this go down to 15 seconds and then skip if we haven't all answered by then. Oh, we have. Another really difficult one, which is totally fair enough. These are about the results that I expected. People doing decently on the first ones and then really struggling with these last ones, which is a good thing. It's good for me. It means I can teach you guys something. So chocolate cake in third, QQ in second, all getting 5 out of 7, which is either some very good guessing or you already have good knowledge of this. And Taib in first there. Okay, so let's have a look at what the percentage, like the overall percentage for that was. It was 42%. That's not that bad. I'm pretty sure I've said before in uni, 40% is a pass. So that's pretty good. But we'll see if that goes up by the end. Okay. Right, let's jump straight into it then. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to start off telling you what on earth functions are and how we compute them. And then I'll teach you about combining functions, those scary f of g of x and fof and so on. And then I'll teach you about inverses. And we'll have loads of questions for you guys to interact with all the way through. Okay. Right. Cool. So let's get started. So a function is something like this. F of x equals x plus 2. This is a very simple function. Now, the way that I always think of this is like this. So f is the function name, x is what you give it, and x plus 2 is what you give it back. So I always think of it as like a machine, a function machine. So there's this big machine and it's called f, that's the function name, and we give it x, we come up with an x and we drop x in, and what it gives us out is x plus 2. So if we go over and drop in a 5, it's going to give us out 7. So what we say here is f of 5 equals 7. You just, wherever you see an x here, you replace it with that there. So here x is 5, so we pop x is 5 in there. What do you think f of 10 will be? Pop it on the chat or the Q&A. Yeah, loads of people getting it. My gosh, chat is overrun with correct answers. I love it. Lovely stuff. Cool. So it'll be 12. Yeah, if we go up to this plus 2 machine and pop in 10, it's going to give us out 12. Awesome. Okay. What if we have a different machine? We've got another machine now. This machine is called G. And G of x, that's going to give us x squared minus 1. So if we go in and chuck this thing in x, it squares it, subtracts 1, and shoots us back out the answer. So what do you think G of 2 is going to be? What do you think that will give us? Yeah, again, a stream of correct answers. Fantastic. Brilliant. Well done, guys. It's going to be 3. If we give it 2, it squares it to make 4, and then subtracts 1 to give us 3. What about G of minus 5? What will that give us? Gosh, some people are super speedy on this one. Amazing. Pretty much everybody getting this. The thing to remember here is that when we square minus 5, it becomes a positive 25. If you square a negative, you get a positive number. So this is 25 minus 1, which is 24. Awesome. Okay. And then finally, what if we have something like, let's call this machine H. We normally call these functions F, and then if we've already used F, we use G, then H. So you'll see these letters a lot. It's like how when we have unknowns, we call them X, and then Y, and then Z. Mathematicians like to be consistent with it. So that's why I'm using these letters. So let's say that H of X, in fact, let's say H of Y. Let's go a bit crazy just to prove to you that it doesn't have to be an X. This is just the input. This is just what you give it. So H of Y is, let's say, y squared minus 2y plus 1. Ooh. So what do you think H of 1 will be? What will H of 1 be? Cool. A few people getting it. A few people messaging it many times to try to spam the chat. Okay. So maybe a bit trickier. Because y is 1, we put that in wherever we see a y. So we have y squared, so that becomes 1 squared, minus 2 times y, so that becomes 2 times 1, plus 1. So this is 1 minus 2 plus 1, which is 0. What about h of minus 3? What will that give us? Okay, a few people getting this one, some people finding this one a bit trickier. So thing to remember here is that this is going to be, so minus 3 squared minus 2 lots of minus 3 plus 1. So you see we've just popped in minus 3 every time we see a y. So now this is, so minus 3 squared is positive 9, remember? Now minus 2 times minus 3, that's 2 negatives. So this is a positive 6. Then we add 1. So h of minus 3 is actually 16. So a difficult one there. Okay. I've just seen a message in the chat. Someone said school is now starting next week. Will there still be MyTutor lessons? Yes, there will. They'll just be less frequent. So there'll be one of each of the core, so maths, English, and one of each of the sciences each week. You'll get more information about that soon. Yeah, and the poll later is about the timings for stuff like that. So yeah, there will still be some, but less frequently. Okay, cool. Okay. Now, what if we have, so we'll keep this here. No, actually, let's do a different one. Let's go back to calling it f. This is a new machine called f. F of x is 2x plus 1. What is f of 3x, do you think? Yeah, a few people getting this, which is really, really good. Not everybody, but that's to be expected. This is a harder one. We're kind of stepping up with it. Okay, let's give it a go. So what we've got to think about is if this was a number, we would replace our x with it. So let's think about it like this. Wherever we see an x, because that's our input, we replace it here. So when we see a 3x, we want to say that it's 2 lots of 3x plus 1. And what's that? That's 6x plus 1, just by expanding that out. So quite a lot of people got that, so really, really well done to those of you who did. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Do let me know if it doesn't. I can try to re-explain myself. Let's have a look at one like this. So let's say g of x is x squared plus x minus 1. What is g of 2x? What's that going to be? Yeah, a few people getting it or getting really close to it. Nice. Cool. So we do the same thing here. We see that when we put anything in here, wherever we see an x, we replace it with that. So let's do the same thing here. We see our x squared, but our x is now 2x. So we whack that in, plus our x, which is now 2x. So we whack that in, minus 1. Simplify this. 2x squared is 4x squared because you square the 2 and you square the x, plus 2x minus 1. We'll do one more like this. So let's say h of x is, I'll do a slightly harder one, x squared minus 2x. Let's just keep it as that. So what is h of x plus 1? Bit of a trickier one here, but just, yeah, work through the same process as before. Yeah, a couple of people got it already. Fantastic. Some people are super, super close or getting there. Let's give this one a go, shall we? So we think about the same thing as before. Wherever we see an x, instead we're going to write x plus 1 because that's our input. So x plus 1 squared minus 2 lots of x plus 1. So you see instead of an x in these places, we've just put an x plus 1. So now all we have to do is simplify this out. So x plus 1 squared. Now, don't be fooled by this. This is not x squared plus 1. This is, remember when we did expanding? This is x plus 1 lots of x plus 1. So this is actually x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus 2x minus 2. So I've just done some expansion there. Let me know if you want me to go over the expansion again, because I've done it quite quickly because it's not like, we're not going over expansion today, but I definitely can do if people are confused. And then we're just going to expand some terms. So there's only one x squared. The x terms cancel each other out. We've got a plus 2x and a minus 2x. And then we've got a plus 1 minus 2. So that becomes minus 1. So this is x squared minus 1. Yeah. So I think people did quite well at that. We are going to do more like this in a slightly different format now. So here's what we're going to have a look at. It's exactly what we've just been doing, kind of almost disguised in a different way. So let's say we've got two functions now. F of x is x plus 7, and g of x is 2x plus 1. Now we want to know what f of g of x, so you can either see it written like this, fgx, or f of g of x. So you see what this means, if we keep it with the brackets here, you do g of x, take that output, and pop it into f of x. So let's see, if we take x, so let's kind of see this through. So we take x and we pop it into g. What do we get out? We get out 2x plus 1. So then we pop that into f. So what this question is actually asking is, what is f of 2x plus 1? So this is just like what we've been doing before. So we pop 2x plus 1 in here. So a couple of people have got it already, which is fantastic. Wherever we see an x in this f function, we replace it with our new thing, 2x plus 1. So this becomes 2x plus 1 plus 7, or what a couple of people have already said, 2x plus 8, which is fantastic. Yeah, loads of people getting that, which is brilliant. Okay, I've got a lot of please slow down on the Q&A. Because they're all anonymous, it might all just be one person, but I'll do another example a lot slower. I do talk quite quickly, especially when I get excited, and I always get excited about maths. So we'll do a couple more examples of these. So let's say we've got f is x squared minus 2. Oh, sorry, f of x. Gosh. F of x is x squared minus 2. G of x is, let's just say g of x is 3x. So we want to find what f of g of x is. So I'll let you guys just look at that in a moment. Either answer it if you think you already know how to do it. Or, yeah, just have a look at it and think about it. Someone's just said go faster. Okay, so we've got to bear in mind, just think about what this means. So f of g of x. So you always have to start from the middle and like work out with these, because what this means is we do g of x and we take that output and feed that back into f. It's just like if you just imagine two machines, right? Maybe this won't help, but this is how my strange brain works. So we've got our g machine here, which multiplies your x by 3, and we've got our f machine here, which takes your x and squares it and subtracts 2. And I've got a little x here. Let's do this in a colour. I chuck my x into the G machine, and G spouts out 3x, because that's what G does. Whatever you give it, it gives you three lots of that. Then I don't even touch that 3x. I chuck it straight into the F machine. It literally goes straight from one into the other. We feed that straight into the F machine. And then F gives us that squared minus 2. That's what F does. So F spouts out 3x squared minus 2, because it gives us whatever we've just put in squared and minus 2. So all we've done is we've replaced this x with a 3x. Maybe visualizing it like that helps a little bit more. Someone said go faster than now, but slower than before. Gosh, try to pace it right. I'm hoping it's the right pace anyway. People are following, so I think I'm okay. Yeah, so hopefully this visualization works. This is kind of what I think in my head each time I think about this. So then what we get is this here. And remember, we have to square the 3 and the x when we do 3x squared. So this is 9x squared minus 2. Hopefully that makes sense there. I think a lot of people were getting that, which is really fantastic. Okay, cool. Let's have a go at one more for you guys to do. I'm going to do this as a two-parter, actually. How thrilling. F of x is going to be x squared plus 1, and g of x is going to be 2x minus 1. So first of all, what's f of g of x? Second of all, what's g of f of x? Exciting stuff. Give them a go. I'll go through, gosh, everything's just about my pace. You know what? I'm just gonna, yeah, okay, I think I know what hopefully what pace to pitch it at. So give these a go. Have a go at A first. If you don't understand what B means or how to do it, that's totally fine. Just give A at least a go, because that's what we've been working at before. Cool, so let's start off with A and think about what this means. So this means that we have to do F of our g of x. So g of x gives us 2x minus 1, and then we want to do f of that. So f of 2x minus 1. So that just means that we see where our x is and replace it now with a 2x minus 1, because that's the new thing that we're feeding in. So that's going to be 2x minus 1 squared plus 1. And then this is going to be 4x squared minus 4x plus 1, and then add that 1 on the end. So the answer to A is 4x squared minus 4x plus 2, which I think a load of people got, which is really, really encouraging. Fantastic. What about part B? Well, this is g of f of x. So now we do what f of x gives us, which is x squared plus 1, and that's what we feed into g. So now we want to do g of f of x, which is x squared plus 1. Now that's going to be 2 lots of x squared plus 1 minus 1. So 2x squared plus 2 minus 1. So 2x squared plus 1. So well done if you got both of those. I think a few people definitely did. So well done. If you still don't understand, don't worry. Let's see what the time is. Yeah, I will have to move on to inverses in a moment. But these MyTutor videos are recorded and put on the MyTutor YouTube channel. So definitely, if you think I went too fast, go and watch me on 0.5 times speed. If you think I went too slowly, go and watch me on 2 times speed. You can totally, you know, pause it, stop wherever you want to. So if you're not following, I'd really recommend rewatching. Someone's asked for one more. I think that's a really good idea. So I'll do one more like this. Actually, I'll do a couple more because I've got a plan, and then we'll move on to inverse functions. for a little bit. So, okay. Before I start, I just want to talk about other ways of notation. So, we've said that we can either write this as f of g of x, or because mathematicians are lazy and like to shortcut wherever they can, we can just write fgx. The other thing that we can see written, and this differs either between exam boards or between papers, so it's good to be aware of all of them, is fogx. Now that's not actually an O, it's just like a small circle. It's an actual mathematical symbol. And it kind of means like applied to. I think you see this one much more at a higher level. So if you're thinking of doing maths further, so for example at uni, this is the main notation that I use, but it really depends. And it means exactly the same. All of these things are exactly equivalent. This one just reads as f applied to g of x. So it's the same thing. You do your g of x, and then you do f of that. So these all mean the same thing. Someone said, how do you write so fast with the MyTutor cursor? Touchscreen, best thing ever. Someone else has said about the YouTube, there's only 2 minutes of it. Yeah, so there's some videos on the YouTube that are 2-minute videos, like sometimes we upload 2-minute like homework question type things, but the longer ones, these like hour-long ones, are on there too. Yeah, brilliant. And Pranav has just said what they think FOF is. So what do other people think that? In that question in the Kahoot at the beginning, we didn't know this whole FOF thing, FOF, what does that mean? So FOF of X, what do you think that means? Yeah, loads of people getting it now. Yeah, fantastic. So it's just like this. This is just F applied to f of x. So you can either write it like that or as our ffx notation. You get used to seeing all these different kinds when we do questions and stuff. So for example, we could have a question that says f of x is 2x plus 3. What is f applied to f of x? Give this one a go. If you're confused, don't worry, I'll explain it. Try to explain it nice and slowly in a moment. Yeah, awesome. Lots of people getting this, which is fantastic. And we can get quite confusing ones. There might be one in the final Kahoot, but you can get stuff like f applied to g applied to h of x. And you just work through it again from the middle. You evaluate the h of x, feed that into g, see what you get, feed that into f. I think these are quite, of course I think they're fun because I'm a nerd, but they're quite systematic. So this was always, and still is, one of my favorite topics. So I think they're interesting. Yeah, so this, let's see. If we want to picture this as a machine, we can say we've got just our f machine now. We feed it our x, and it spews out 2x plus 3. And then before we've even got a chance to catch the answer, we spew it straight back in. So we put 2x plus 3 straight back into this. So we get 2 lots of 2x plus 3 plus 3. So we're taking the output of f and putting it back into x. Expand this out, you get 4x plus 6. And then simplify, and you get what loads of people got, 4x plus 9. That was excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to inverses now. I think most people are getting this, and if not, just rewatch the YouTube video. I wish we had longer in these, but also I think people would start to switch off a bit. So we'll hop along onto inverses now. Now, inverse functions are way more common than you would think. For example, the inverse of multiplication is division. The inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of squaring something is to square root it, and so on and so forth. So we do use inverses all the time, and all it means is just reverse the process. What it means in terms of a function is, what do you put in to get the answer that we're given? Or what would happen if I swapped y and x? I'll show you exactly what I mean. So we can imagine a function. So let's think of a function. So functions can also be written as equations. If I write y equals 2x, this is exactly the same thing as f of x equals 2x. So actually, this is secretly what all graphs are. All graphs are actually functions, little secret. But instead of writing f of x, we write y to give it two distinct variables. But once you get to university level especially, we don't think about y in graphs anymore. We just think about f of x. So it's always good to be introduced to it because it is used even at GCSE. So if we draw this, y equals 2x, it's going to look like this, just some sort, maybe I'll do it in a different color, some sort of straight line graph. Now, what we want to do here is find the inverse. And what that means is, if y is 2x, how do we then get from x to y? So basically what this means is, rearrange to find what x is. So if to get from y, we do 2x, well, this means x must be y over 2, just by rearranging to get x there. Yeah, loads of people got that actually. Fantastic. And this is exactly what I said, how division is the inverse of multiplication. Multiplying by 2 is the inverse of dividing by 2. So then we can kind of draw this graph, but on the same, if we then write this as saying the inverse is actually y equals x over 2. So these two are inverses of each other. And then that's just this, but with a flatter gradient like this. Now, this bit might not make sense, but I'll explain it in this format anyway. What we've actually done here, just if you think about this graphically, is we've reflected in the line y equals x. And the reason that we have done that is because we want to swap y and x. We want to see what this inverse is. So we've reflected in the line y equals x so that all the x's become y's and the y's become x's. And then we see how to inverse. And we'll see this with some other functions. Now, the key thing is that you can only inverse certain functions. So let's have a think about a square function. So one of the questions in the first Kahoot was, which of these functions doesn't have an inverse? And the answer was x squared. Now, let's think about that. If we have a function that pumps out x squared, we can give it something, so f of 3, and know that it was 9. However, what if I told you that f of something, let's call it y, gives us 16? What would you say y is? So this is just doing the inverse. How do we get from the answer back to that? So basically, all I'm saying here is, yeah, what do we square? What have we fed in as x to give us 16? Now, a lot of people are saying 4, which is totally correct. Can you think of something else that we can square to get 16, though? Yeah, few people getting it now. -4 as well. So if we've got f of y equals 16, is it 4? Is it -4? And that's why it doesn't have an inverse. There is no way of knowing what we put in to get 16. We know it was one of 2, but we don't know which. If I say I'm thinking of a number and the square is 16, you know I'm thinking of 4 or -4, but you don't know which one. Therefore, you can't inverse my thought process. This function doesn't have an inverse. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, someone said x has 2 solutions. Exactly right. If it's got more than one solution, then there's no way that we can inverse it. So hopefully that makes sense. If you had something like x cubed, however, well, we know that the cube root of something can be positive or negative. For example, here, 4 cubed is 64. Minus 4 cubed is actually minus 64. So that does have an inverse. So that is something that we are allowed to do. And you can tell this on a graph. Let's think about this. If we have the graph of x squared, looks like this. Oh, doesn't go below there. Quite hard to draw on here. And we inversing it, remember, reflecting in the line y equals x, because we want to swap all the y's and the x's around. That means that this comes out looking like this. This is not technically a function, because if we put in the number, if we feed in a number into this function, we know exactly what solution we're getting. However, if we feed in a number to this function, which solution do we get? And this is exactly what I'm saying. Here, where you feed in, say, 16, was that from 4 or was that from minus 4? And it's no good having a function that doesn't know which output to give you. That's not a function. So hopefully that makes sense as to why not all functions give you inverses. So that's the answer to that question. Now let's have a look at how we convert these inverses. We're just going to do a couple of examples and then go to the final Kahoot. So, say the question is, what is the inverse of f of x equals 2x minus 1 all over 3. Now, this is too tricky, right? At least for me, I couldn't work this out in my head. With 2x, you can kind of see that to reverse that, you divide by 2. But here, there are too many things going on. So what we do is to start with, let's call this y equals 2x minus 1 over 3. Now reflect it in the line y equals x. Swap the y and the x. So x equals 2y minus 1 over 3. Now rearrange this so that we get y again on the left-hand side. So you see we're inversing everything here. We're going to start off by multiplying by 3 instead of dividing. Then we're going to add 1 instead of subtracting. And then we're going to divide by 2 instead of multiplying. So you see how at every single stage here, we've done the opposite of what was currently happening. It's just algebraic rearrangement. Yeah, and a few people have already got that, which is fantastic. So then this, if we just slightly rewrite this, y equals 3x plus 1 over 2, or let's call the inverse. We normally write the inverse like this, f inverse. So you know how with sine functions, trig functions like sine, inverse sine, we write as a little minus 1. That's what we do here. So inverse f of x is 3x plus 1 over 2. Et voila. Hopefully that makes sense. And you can kind of see it from this. So you see here we've doubled it, subtracted 1, divided by 3. Here we've multiplied by 3, added the 1 back on, and halved it. We have just done the exact inverse of that thing. You can also think of it, again, if you're more of a visual person, if you think of f of x, if you think of this f function doing several things, you take your x. First of all, you times it by 2 to get your 2x. Then you subtract 1 to get your 2x minus 1. Gosh, I can't write today. And then you divide by 3 to get your 2x minus 1 over 3. What we're doing is the inverse. We start with this, and then we start with x. We divide it by, we do the inverse. So we multiply it by 3. We add 1. We divide by 2. So I'll give you one to have a go at. What is the inverse of f of x equals 4x over 5 plus 7? What's the inverse of that one? Someone said, is this the hardest it's going to get? Pretty much. You could probably get some harder combined ones. For example, what is G applied to inverse f of x? But it's all just combining stuff that we know. Cool. People are getting at least close to this, getting some sort of an idea. I'm going to go through it so that we have time for the final Kahoot. So remember, we're just reversing each step. So let's write this as y equals 4x over 5 plus 7. Reflect it in that axis, so just swap these over. 4y over 5 plus 7. Rearrange to find y. So we'll do the different steps one at a time. First of all, subtract 7 instead of adding it. Then multiply it by 5 instead of dividing. And this is where a couple of people went wrong. Remember, we have to multiply both things here by it. And then divide by 4 instead of multiplying. So 5x minus 35 over 4. So we can write inverse f of x equals 5x minus 35 over 4, which a couple of people did get, so that's really good. Someone said, will we do any exam questions? I did have a question sheet open, but these ones were quite easy. They're quite easy to come up with. Most of these are exam style questions anyway. Exam questions will look like this. Someone's asked the question, so someone said I left it in factorized form. That's fine. If you left it as 5 lots of x minus 7 over 4, that's totally fine. Someone said, why can't you times by 5 first? If you do time, you can, but if you do times by the 5 first, you also have to multiply this by 5 because this is added. It's kind of a separate element to the 4y over 5. So you end up with 5x equals 4y plus 35, and then you end up with the same thing. So that's just a little trick about, yeah, that's a little trick to do with that. So hopefully that all makes sense. So we're going to do the final Kahoot now. Sorry we didn't have loads of time to go over a few more of them, but I think we did enough. So whilst people are joining, I'm going to pop the poll on the screen. So let me just get this up here. Okay, so here's this to join this Kahoot. And then I can launch polling, I believe. Here you go. So I think you guys can see this now, hopefully. So this is about next week, roughly when you would like the new session of online schools tutorials to be happening. Yeah, cool. People are voting. So if you could all vote on that, that would be super, super helpful, especially if you're going to come back next week whilst you're joining the Kahoot. Okay, almost everybody's voted now, which is super useful. So if you have voted, join the Kahoot. Okay. There's only a couple of people left to vote, so if you hadn't, I'll be ending the poll in a moment once I start the Kahoot, so give it a go. And also, if you do have time, if you answer a question quickly, feel free to send in your maths jokes as per, and I'll pick one to read out at the end, because I don't actually have one for today yet, so yeah. Okay, so I think this is pretty much everybody in. I'm going to end the polling now because I think everybody voted on that. Cool. Don't worry if it didn't come up on your screen. A couple of people said that it didn't. Okay, so I'm going to get this started. I'll pop this game pin into the chat so that you can join. It will be unlocked. You can join whilst we're doing it. Okay, let's go. 7 questions. We might even finish on time today. What a novelty. Okay, so like I said, similar to before, this time it's the plugging things in. So what's f of 0 of that function there? Cool, most people answered that. I think that's everybody who's in here actually. Oh, whoops, I accidentally clicked next before we actually saw it because I was about to click skip. But I think a lot of people got that, so well done. What you had to do is plug 0 in for x. I'll show you properly for this one. Sorry, I went to click skip and it went through. So find f of 4 of this function here. Awesome, well done. So we pop f, so it was f of 4. So we pop 4 in as here, 4 squared plus 4. That gives us 20. Okay, next one. So this is, I guess we didn't actually talk exactly about the notation here. So what does f of g of x tell you? You can kind of look at it and hopefully tell with it. And I'll explain why that is afterwards. But it is what we've been doing. Yeah, fantastic. It's multiplication. That means that we're multiplying the functions. This one we didn't actually get a chance to go through. This means that you multiply the functions first and then apply it to x. These ones are normally quite intuitive. So sometimes we have to do f plus g of x and so on. But I think with everything that you've learned today, you'd be able to tackle questions like that now. Okay. Right. Our first kind of sit down, work it out. So first of all, we need to work out what f of g of x is, or you can do it step by step, but give it a go. I'll shut up so that you can get on with it. If you have done it, feel free to send in jokes whilst we're waiting for the time to go down. I've received a lot. They just make me laugh. It's just because they make me laugh and I want to read more of them. Okay, perfect. Okay, majority got this, which is really good. So let's think. Yeah, we've got 5 minutes, so we could actually go through this one. So let's see. F of g of 2. Well, let's see. F of g is going to be, well, in fact, we can probably make this easier for ourselves and find g of 2 first. So g of 2 is going to be 2 lots of 2 minus 7, which equals minus 3. And then we can plug that into f of x. So f of minus 3 is 3 minus 3 squared. So plugging that in there, 3 minus 9 minus 6. I hope that was the answer because I didn't. Yes, wonderful. Minus 6. So we did g of t first and then popped it into f. So that's a quicker way of doing that there. Cool. Next question is going to be similar. So yeah, difficult one. Like I said, we can combine loads together. So I'm going to let the whole timer run down for this one because it's going to be quite difficult. Ooh, why is... I don't know why the image is different. I don't know where that came from. Ignore the image. Don't know why that's there. Yeah, completely ignore that image. Okay, almost there. Most people have submitted something in. Like I said, this is a harder one, especially because it's very easy to make simple maths errors with this one. Okay, well done. It was still most people who got that one. Well done. And the others might have been simple maths errors. So I don't quite have time to go through it fully, but you would put h of x, pop that into g of x, and then pop whatever you get out of that back into f of x. So feel free to give that another go, rewatch the video and try again. Okay, does this function, does that have an inverse? So think about it. Think about if I put something in, think about what the inverse would be, try reflecting it, or think about, can I put two different things in and get the same answer? Just kind of think about what it means for it to be able to have an inverse. Well done. Most people got that. So the reason is because if I tell you that the answer is 1, I could either have put in -1 or 1. So it can't have an inverse because you can't work backwards from it. Final one, finding the inverse of something. So what is the inverse of this function here? So see if you can remember how to do that. Okay, most people have answered this. Let's see what time we're on. Okay, I'll just let this run down to 50 seconds to give people a chance, but then I'll skip it because we're just coming to the end now. Well, we're at the end now. Oh, brilliant. Okay, oh, a tricky one still, that one. Okay, so what we have to do for this is, yeah, this is a bit of a trickier one, I suppose. So we swap the y and the x, and rearrange. So we would multiply up by this, subtract the 1. So this is a trickier one, but just have a look. Have another look over the stuff for that one. Okay, so let's see. Third place with 6 out of 7, smart dude. Very well done. Second place, also with 6 out of 7, Taib. Well done. And first place, also with 6 out of 7, fantastic, is Sedgebot. So really well done to you three and everybody who, because everybody seemed to do really well there. Let's see. So we got 42% earlier. Have we overall improved? Yes, just 44%. Fantastic. So normally it doesn't go up too much because they're different questions. They can be quite a bit harder. So just to finish up with the joke, I've got so many good ones. These are fantastic, guys. I'm going to have to write some down to remember for following weeks. But we'll go with this one from Nasira. What do you get if you cross a maths teacher and a clock? Arithmetics. But so thank you all for sending those in. I absolutely love doing that. It makes it so much fun. I need to stop sharing. So thank you all for coming and filling out the poll. Oh no, someone's disappointed in the joke. Find some better ones and send them in tomorrow. Do check out the MyTutor website for one-on-one tutoring and all fun things like that. And the timetable coming up, as I said, it's changing a bit. And the YouTube channel if you want to rewatch this. And yeah, check out what lessons are coming up. I will personally see you all again tomorrow for more fun and games with maths. So have a great rest of your week, guys, and I'll see you all soon.